Moving on now, the United Arab Emirates has intercepted and destroyed yet another ballistic missile launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels towards the Gulf country, making the third such incident to take place in this month itself. Taking to Twitter, the UAE Defense Ministry in a statement said, I'm quoting here, air defenses intercepted and destroyed a ballistic missile launched by a Houthi terrorist group towards the country. It further said, I'm quoting here, debris fell in an unpopulated area and there were no casualties. The ministry also affirmed its full readiness to deal with any threats, emphasizing on how it will take all the necessary measures to protect the UAE from any attacks. The incident on Monday, that is, it marks the third attack on Emirates this month. The first assault took place on the 17th of January when 3 foreign workers were killed. And the second attack took place on the 24th of January, that is exactly a week after Yemen's Houthi rebels conducted a drone strike in Abu Dhabi. Now, the United Arab Emirates is part of a Saudi-led coalition fighting the Iran-aligned Houthis in Yemen. The Houthi attacks are in response to the series of rebel defeats on the ground in Yemen inflicted by a UAE-trained militia. In 2019, the UAE withdrew its troops from Yemen but remains an influential player here. The Yemen's Houthi rebels are yet to comment on the recent attack. However, they've said they will release a statement in coming hours about an operation in the UAE. Now, the latest attack also coincides with Israeli President Isaac Herzog's first official visit to the UAE after the two countries normalized relations in 2020. During his visit, Herzog said that his country supports the Gulf state's security needs and wants more countries in the region to join its new détente with the Arab world. And for more on this, our correspondent Jody Cohen is joining us live from Ra'anana in Israel. Jody, thank you for joining us. The United Arab Emirates, in the latest that we've heard, destroyed a Houthi missile launch site in northern Yemen after UAE intercepted and destroyed another ballistic missile launched by the Houthi rebels. What can you tell us about this latest incident, the third such in this month?
So what we do know is that there were no injuries, but it is the first attack from the Houthis on Emirati soil that actually landed within Emirati land. It was aimed at civilians, and as you said, this is the third such attack in the past month. Now, President Herzog, who is visiting the UAE right now, and Prime Minister Bennett from Israel both were quick to condemn the attack. Last week, Bennett, after the last attack, he had offered any assistance from Israel to help protect the UAE from future attacks. And that's following his visit last month. Now, President Herzog is continuing this historic two-day visit to the UAE. He's the first president from Israel to visit the UAE. It's also actually the first time that the presidential plane flew over Saudi Arabia en route to the UAE. And that really is a reflection of the warming ties following the 2020 Abraham Accords between the UAE and Israel and other countries. Now, you'll see in the visuals that President Herzog is unshaven as he is touring the country. And that's actually a sign of mourning for his mother who passed away. Yet he didn't let the fact that his mother has recently passed away stop this visit. And he has said that he's not going to let this missile attack stop his trip to the UAE either.
Right. All right, Joy, thank you so much for mentioning that. Also, President Isaac Herzog has urged more countries in the region to join its new détente with the Arab world. What can we expect going forward here?
So there's always speculation about a number of other countries who are on hand wanting to sign, wanting to warm relations with Israel, which is obviously a very positive development. We've seen between the talks between the UAE and Israel that there has been a warming of ties. There's been a real boost in trade, huge tourism, particularly of Israelis going to the UAE, ambassadors between the two countries. And of course, the countries also share a mutual concern over Iran. They've been discussing security and bilateral relations. And with the US trying to withdraw from the region, really this trip can be seen, and Prime Minister Bennett's trip last month, can be seen as a message to Iran, as well as the more positive message of warming ties between the countries. And there's a lot more on the agenda that we can expect on Monday. The president is visiting Dubai and is meeting with the Dubai Prime Minister and the Tolerance Minister. And he's also going to be opening Israel's National Day at Dubai Expo 2020. So it's a busy agenda and really a reflection of the growing ties between not only Israel and the UAE, but Israel and the Gulf countries as well.
Right. Jody, thank you so much for joining us with all your inputs on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.